Welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee, and please join me and my guests on this next interview. President Donald Trump and Xi Jinping have met for the first time since Trump's return to office, holding talks on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea. While Trump had openly called for China's help in dealing with wartime Russia, the final agenda also featured trade tensions, fentanyl exports, and other broader U.S.-China strategic rivalry. With the dust now settling, what did the meeting really achieve, and what does it signal going forward? Joining us today on TVP World to unpack the outcomes and implication is Tomasz Obremski, Program Manager at Warsaw Security Forum, Specialist in Transatlantic Security and U.S.-China Strategic Affairs. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning.
So let's actually start from the beginning, and I was curious about what actually topped the agenda. I think going into this meeting, a lot of us here are looking forward to a discussion on the war in Ukraine and what could be achieved there. Do you think that it reached a significant amount of discussion? Is it presentable in the priority list?
I don't think Ukraine was on top of the agenda of this meeting. In the days upcoming to the summit, it was mostly related to the trade relations. Trump really wanted to unblock the soybean export to China. Soybean is being produced in the Midwest states that are supporting Donald Trump, that are highly Republican, and the inventory of soybean was stocking up with no markets to be exported. Trump also wanted to decrease the export of fentanyl coming to the black market in the United States from China. And also the big elephant in the room in the last few weeks was the ban on export of the rare earth elements produced mostly by China around the world. So in this sense, it is some kind of a relief for the entire world, including Europe. And this we can connect somehow to the war in Ukraine, because Europe right now stocks up ammunition, spends more on the defense, and you cannot buy tanks, missiles, or fighter jets without those rare elements. Right. So this was a very high-stake meeting to see some tensions go down, so we can continue our high defense spending on the 5%, because 5% with this Chinese ban, it will be effectively impossible. But Ukraine itself was not on the top of the agenda. Both countries are involved in these countries in one way or another. They are not, but I think for China it's good to keep this conflict ongoing as the way it is in the status quo, because it weakens Europe, it makes it more dependent on China. It makes Russia more dependent on China, but from European side, we definitely would not like this conflict to be full-scale proxy war between the United States and China.
Right. So speaking of this region and our interest in this meeting, you mentioned the rare earth mineral, rare earth elements aspect of it actually has kind of indirect impact on the war as well. Now, many Central Eastern European countries do rely on high-tech manufacturing, and also part of this global supply chain that highly involves China as well. Now, with the U.S.-China easing tensions and dealing with rare earths, what are some of the strategic opportunities and also vulnerabilities that can come from it?
Strategic opportunity is time. We have more time to prepare. We have more time to enjoy open trade. This is, in my opinion, like one of the most significant diplomatic meetings this year so far. Donald Trump used to call it G2, the two most important economies of the world meet, and the effect of this meeting sends ripples around the global economy. For the last 8 years, the trade dispute between those two countries have created sort of deglobalization effect, right? So we still have some time to engage with China, to try to de-risk our strategy, to maneuver our trade routes, our supply chains, and we can see that from the reaction of the stock markets, of the economies, that investors are welcoming the efforts done so far. Although it's just a ceasefire so far, it's just a truce. But we may hope that Trump has announced that he's going to go to Beijing in April. Such meeting, such summit, him going to China will need to deliver more tangible results both for the United States and China. So we can hope that that in next few months, Chinese and U.S. diplomats will work will work something out to ease the tensions. But it's also normal that two largest economies have some tensions between them, and that's what Xi Jinping was also underlying, that we need to get used to the fact that there is some confrontation.
Right, and speaking of this trade tension, of course, there's some back and forth when it comes to these deal making. Coming out of the meeting, who do you think leave the room getting more than, well, the other partner?
I think Donald Trump, he was the first one to do the press conference in Air Force One. He announced that the tariffs will be lowered from 57 to 47. In my opinion, this is low. Anything above 30% is effectively banning the trade. So I think Chinese might be disappointed. And from screening through Chinese English media, this is a big disappointment. Xi Jinping has not issued a communication that is more substance. There is just some headliner that both parties talked about the trade. Donald Trump also he's announced that ban on the rare earth export will be lifted. We are waiting for the confirmation from the Chinese side. He also announced that fentanyl will be more controlled in the Chinese market. So he listed many things that he achieved. He said that the next summit will happen in April, whereas from Chinese side, apart from not escalating it further, it does not seem that they gain much more. And this is surprising because it seems that after spring talks, where China really pushed America hard, there is the sense of growing of power in Beijing, that we need to play hard with Trump, that once we play hard, Trump actually withdraws. But maybe China also wants to present itself as a reliable partner to the rest of the world, that thanks to them, they managed to keep Trump at bay, to not further escalate the trade and sanctions around the globe. And also on top of that, we need to remember that China has its own internal problem that we not always talk about that much, such as the unemployment among youth because of decreased production, the looming crisis in the real estate, so slower production, industrial production. So some kind of a relief for them is also, may be also good for the domestic communication.
All right, some of the Chinese outlets are also saying that she reached a consensus with Donald Trump. Do you think that is more for kind of PR consumption, internal, external messaging when it comes to what is really being achieved?
Consensus on trade?
Yes.
Yes, consensus on trade. We will not escalate any further from that. And but as I said, this is not peace deal. This is not the trade deal. The trade deal might happen in April. I'm a bit worried that it will not happen in April. But this is just the preliminary meeting to set a path for April talks. We did not see the escalations of the sanctions. We did not see the escalations of the rare earth ban. So in this sense, there is some kind of agreement not to escalate it any further, because both countries can lose significantly in that. And I think Xi Jinping wanted to show that China is a powerful partner and it can hit back. It can strike back, and both countries, both America and China, will be damaged at least on the equal foot.
All right. Something that can help us unpack a little bit. You mentioned that the 10% reduction in tariff is essentially still the same. So when we're looking at tariffs, does it mean that it's not like in a linear type of way where 10% means that they will now be 10% more beneficial, but looking at it more like in a threshold where, because the number is still high, essentially this lowering of tariff doesn't really have any impact in a sense that it's still not beneficial for China to do some of their trade?
Yes. China was hoping to get at least to the same level as the rest of the world, to around 24%. I think this exempts the soybeans that can flow. This exempts some high-tech products, such as semiconductors, such as NVIDIA chips. So we have exemptions from that, but effectively, 10%, of course, it always creates some room for more determined producers or importers, but effectively it will not reinvent the trade between the United States and China.
Right. Now, rolling things back to the CEE, how do you think this meeting will be perceived by people here, be it public opinion, business community, and governments? Is there concern about, Trump calling this the G2, the two biggest economy, that other countries might be sidelined in their kind of internal dealings?
No, I think it was watched closely. Of course, we were watching closely, particularly on the security matters, but neither Taiwan nor Ukraine was actually mentioned during that meeting. Trump was saying that this meeting will last around 4 hours. It lasted in the end hour and 40 minutes, still pretty long, but less than announced. So there is sense that it was actually shorter than expected. Of course, I think if some countries have tools to actually stop this conflict, those are these two countries. But right now there is no agreement between them what to do with it. There's also limited agency to actually push either Russian or Ukrainian, depending from which side are you looking on, to the peace deals. Of course, United States have sanctions Lukoil and Rosneft, and actually China has also decreased the import from those two companies, so to speak, and was actually open for the talks to have some more gas coming from the United States. But this is not something that we can directly link to our region. Of course, indirectly it has many connections, but we were not on the top of the agenda at this meeting.
Right, now, alongside the trade aspect, the meeting also occurred as Trump announced that the United States would actually resume nuclear weapons testing, or at least take some steps to that direction. What do you think that message he's trying to send?
Well, China as a global superpower, or as it sees itself, counts its nuclear warheads in hundreds, whereas Russia and America counts it in thousands. And this is worrying Beijing, and they've been stocking up and trying to boost their missile number that they have. So far, nobody has been, apart from North Korea, testing nuclear weapons since 90s. Trump was saying that he wants to level the playing field among the superpowers, but he was more referring probably to testing of missiles that can, carry nuclear warheads, such as Russian Iskanders or other missiles that are currently tested. But I think it was also the move to show the power to their Chinese counterparts that we are more powerful on this basis and do not try to compete with us. And it was just published on the Truce social just hours before the meeting. I think it's something that we should get used to when it comes to Trump diplomacy, that he likes to raise the stakes just before the meetings.
All right. Of course, when it talks on the topic of nukes, people get a little bit more jittery and a little bit worried. Do you think that this is more of a case of having it, testing it, so we don't have to use it, rather than it's an actual escalation of tensions?
I think it's an escalation of tensions. I think if the generation has already not seen nuclear tests in the modern world, like apart from North Korea, which is a separate case, this sends a warning signal. This motivates other countries to develop their own programs silently, quietly, or openly, to have their own testing. I think doing anything around that is always something that actually worries people rather than that keeps them at bay. However, this is also some kind of a show of power, and maybe European countries should also follow that to strategically signal to Russia, which, as we know, only understand the language of power and coercion.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for your input and insight. Really appreciate it, and thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
And thank you for tuning into this edition of World Talks. For more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.